Alright, quick update on Solana. So Solana's pumping above a lot of very important ranges and filling a bunch of beautiful bullish patterns over on the daily and the weekly time frame. So let's talk about what's going on in the short term, and then towards the end of the video I'll talk about, am I still expecting lower price targets in the next couple of weeks to months for Solana, because there's definitely a difference between what is going on in the short term and what's going on in the higher time frames. Let's jump in. So why is Solana pumping? Well, there's been a ton of bullish news coming out for Bitcoin. There's also been bullish chart patterns that have been playing out before our next FOMC meeting, which is in the next 9 days. I think the Bitcoin markets, the altcoin markets, have a lot of free room to move to the upside / lollygag to the side before that next major capitulation does come in play. Now, for Solana's looking a lot nicer than a lot of the other altcoins right now. It is still very, very, very oversold on the higher time frames. The lower time frames though is a slightly different picture. You can see the daily MFIs coming up soon approaching that 80 mark, which will mean that it is extremely overbought. However, on our previous bounces we've come up to as high as 96. This was when we were having a double retest of a 618 Fibonacci from back here. This was also a double 618 fib. There was another one right here that I have removed the original fib from, but this time when we approached the previous 618 fib, we got absolutely overextended on the daily time frame. And what are we approaching right now? You know, as we're having this massive run to the upside, what Fibonacci are we steadily approaching? That's right, we're coming up to the 786 Fibonacci. So, you know, previously Solana did this. We saw this on the money flow indicator. Money flow indicator got absolutely overbought very, very quickly on the daily time frame right over here. 2nd of April, absolutely shot to the upside. We retested your 618 fib and capitulated, and at this moment in time it looks like we're strongly heading up to the 786 Fibonacci, which is at $57. You can see where we are at this moment in time. We're forming a beautiful W pattern in the lower time frames, which I'm not going to give you the price target of because there's something more important I want to discuss in just one moment's time. However, what I would like to say is if you do stay clear above $41.20 within the next 24 hours, then you're very, very likely to close a bullish candle above the major volume profiles that we've got over here on the VPVR, and subsequently there's not a lot of volume traded within these regions. Above here there is almost nothing significant, so the next major area of support we would be magnetized to the $57 region, which from where we're at right now would signify a 36% pump to the upside. That would definitely be insane. Would I be surprised if Solana did that? Absolutely not. Solana's a very, very euphoric and quick moving crypto, which is why it's my favorite altcoin and which is why I trade it most on Femex. A lot of people say, you know, when are you longing Bitcoin, when are you shorting Bitcoin, etc, etc. But the truth of the matter is I really don't long Bitcoin. I don't short Bitcoin. I predominantly trade Solana and maybe one or two other altcoins. I've got pretty good at trading Solana on leverage. I'm currently not trading it at this moment in time. However, I much prefer to trade Solana because it's way, way more volatile. And this is why we're seeing, you know, 8% increases. When we're looking at how Solana is performing against Bitcoin, you can see, you know, to the downside, Solana underperforms Bitcoin. To the upside, Bitcoin or Solana overperforms Bitcoin. We're heading above some very, very important volume profiles over on the Bitcoin pair as well. But one strong area of resistance that we absolutely need to take out ASAP would be this range right here. Now, in my opinion, you would definitely not be out of the clear until you do take over this region. So this would mean in the short term, you would need to break above the daily EMA ribbons. You'd need to break above this previous invalidation zone, which are coming in at $43. If you do head above there, there's basically no more volume traded above you on the VPVR, but you know, you do have some slight wicks up until about 45 being a psychological level as well. I think that would be a great place for Solana to continue rocketing to the upside before we do take that next leg. So before we do continue with the TA, I would like to say that I have DCA'd Solana today for the first time in months. Now, you might be wondering, you know, why am I DCAing here when I could have DCA'd lower? Well, I like to trade based on momentum. I like to DCA based on momentum, and at this moment in time, we're having a decent amount of momentum coming in, and it's been well documented over on my channel that I sold almost all of my Solana as we capitulated beneath the double 618 Fibonacci at $98.63. that is when I sold basically all my Solana. I've been sitting on the sidelines since then. So me DCAing in today at a 57% discount, even though I missed the local bottom down here, is really not a big deal for me. I have not FOMO'd in. I haven't bought back my entire position. I do think Solana is heading down to the downside in the higher to mid time frames. However, I do also think it's very likely in the shorter time frame we can actually get this move back up to $56 or $57 rather to your 786 Fibonacci before we do take that next leg to the downside. Now, that is basically all I've got to report on Solana for the daily time frame. If we switch over to the weekly time frame, this is very, very impressive, because even on the high Kanashi candles, you have started to switch back bullish on the weekly. The last time we did this, we actually had a 3-week rally up until the weekly EMA ribbon. So you could actually see, you know, once again, coming into correlation, $57 for the 786 Fibonacci. Was it the 786? Yeah, $57 is where the 786 Fibonacci resides, but you could even potentially see a move up to, you know, $60, $65, which is where these weekly EMA ribbons currently reside. Now, would I be expecting a big move above $57? No, not really. I really don't think there's enough money in the economy. And by that I mean, you know, because there's tons of money printing, surely there's lots of money in the economy. I mean, the cost of living is going up, CPI is going through the roof, the interest rates are going through the roof. I don't think people have a large amount of money to prop up the cryptocurrency markets for a prolonged period in time. Now, how long do I see Solana potentially moving to the upside for in the next couple of weeks? And once again, I would really only become very, very short-term bullish as you do take out this invalidation zone. So once again, you really do need to push back above that $45 region if you do want to see that move to 57. But like I said, on the VPVR, once you do have that confirmed breakout of the daily EMA ribbons, there's really not a lot holding Solana back until we do come up to $57, which is why I have started to re-DCA in for a 57% discount from where I originally sold almost all of my Solana. Now, on the weekly time frame as well, what's even more impressive is if we do clean this up. You can see, if I mark this, because you've definitely got a weird old neckline over here, you'd actually mark it from about here. What you can see is we do have a very, very nice W breakout that is in play very, very soon. You would need to break above the top of this neckline at $43. And what is another area of confluence that is coming in at $43? That is right, you know, the daily EMA ribbons, they're literally coming in at about $42.70. So I'd definitely say, you know, hold your horses. There's not a crazy amount of volume coming in. As you can see, when we do look down, volume is relatively stagnant right now. Momentum indicators like the squeeze mom are also very, very stagnant in the higher time frames like the daily. I do find it somewhat difficult to believe Solana could take a massive face tear, but if we do break above $45, back test the daily EMA ribbons, that would be the next move to the upside. 57 will be in play before a next major leg down. So do I still think, well, I've basically confirmed it. Why do I still think that next major leg is coming to the downside? Well, Bitcoin is forming very, very bearish patterns. Everything from, you know, a lack of momentum, a lack of volume, a decent amount of volume coming in on the daily, but nonetheless, you know, once again, line of best fit, you are losing momentum at this moment in time. For Bitcoin as well, you're forming everything from a bear flag to hidden bearish divergence, which I have talked about in my previous videos, specifically for Bitcoin. I won't pull it up here. You've also potentially got a rising wedge playing out. There's a lot of things going on, but more specifically, in the next 9 days, you've got your FOMC meeting. In the next 10 days, you've got your GDP report. So I would definitely be waiting for the next 9 to 10 days for both of these to come out. If the Fed backpedals, if they are no longer increasing the interest rates, then I will also backpedal on my lower price targets for Bitcoin and Solana. But if the Fed comes and raises interest rates by 7,500 basis points, and then the day after we've got our GDP report, and we do have negative GDP putting us in a confirmed recession, then once again, my price targets will be absolutely unchanged. I think Solana is coming down to the regions between $11 and even as low as $9.99. That is where I think Solana is coming down to. There is a ton of support backed up all the way throughout this chart. For these levels, psychological levels like $10 are definitely going to be a huge area where I plan on gobbling up Solana. But with that being said, in the lower time frames, it is definitely looking impressive. Bitcoin looks like it wants to take another leg to the upside. And once again, if we do clear this out, you could definitely see Bitcoin getting continuation up to some higher price targets, even as high as 23,200 in the next day or so. And if we do clear this, you know, we can head up to some much higher valuations like 28,000. I don't think we're going to be able to do that, but nonetheless, this is just what's in play. You can see the VPVR, there's almost no volume traded within these regions. So if you do break above here, it's very likely that we have an absolute face tear for Bitcoin. This would correlate to a face tear for Solana, and potentially even this $57 being in play before the next leg to the downside. But once again, if you have been watching my channel, you know that I have been sitting on the sidelines for Solana since about $98. I have bought back a large majority of my portfolio today for a 57% discount, around about a 25% allocation of my previous portfolio. I have bought that back for much cheaper levels, but once again, I will save the rest of my capital waiting to see what happens with our next FOMC meeting, with our next GDP results. Like I said, you know what my take is. I think these are both going to have negative impacts on the market, but in the next 9 to 10 days, we will see them come into fruition. If the Fed backpedals, if GDP is positive, then I will backpedal on my bearish price targets and I will buy Solana back for these much cheaper prices, which once again, you know, boohoo, if Solana goes up to, you know, $57, even up to these high valuations, and then it turns out, you know, I was wrong, the Fed backpedals, GDP is actually positive, the economy comes back in full force, I'd much rather be buying at $57 than when I sold all of my Solana, or most of my Solana, at $98.70. So it's all about patience. Patience has definitely paid off with my Solana trade so far, and let's see if it continues to pay off. I think the next level, the next leg to the downside is going to be in play within the next 2 weeks. We will not know for the next 9 to 10 days, so hold your horses. Another leg to the upside is very likely in the short term, and once again, keep your eyes on between $43 to $45. Lower time frames, Solana does have a decent amount of room to move to the upside. And then you go on the weekly time frame and you can really see, you know, there is so much room for Solana to move up. This is why it is my favorite altcoin. I'm very bullish on the Solana ecosystem. I love the NFT ecosystem over on Solana. I do definitely think their network needs some tweaking over the next couple of months, the next year or so. But nonetheless, I think Solana is going to have asymmetrical returns. I think it's going to be very bullish within the next year or so. I would just like to sit on the sidelines and wait and see how these FOMC meetings play out. Once again, I've said this many times. When the Fed backpedals, I will backpedal. But until then, I will be calling for lower price targets. So let's see what happens in the next 9 to 10 days. That's all I've got for you today, my friends. Sorry for not updating for the past couple of days. One of my friends came back from Saudi Arabia that I haven't seen in over a year. So I was busy over the weekend. If you do want to learn, or if you do want to see what I've been doing over the weekend in my personal life, then be sure to head over to my Twitter. It is at 618_cowboy. I am back now though, back to the daily uploads. So feels good to be back. As always, my friends, Cowboy out. Peace.